Hello everyone, welcome to the Counsel Card, a podcast series from Volody. I'm Milind Kapile, VP of Sales and host of this podcast. Volody is a leading legal tech software company started in 2016, and our solution portfolio includes contract lifecycle management, litigation management, and insider trading software. This podcast series aims to offer the legal community valuable insight through the conversation with the top legal experts. We will explore their professional journeys, learnings, challenges, strategies, and their viewpoints. We believe that this series will serve as a rich resource for our audience. After all, it's not about the law, it's about the stories behind it. Today we have a distinguished personality, Nitesh Bakshi, with us. Welcome, Nitesh, to the podcast.
Thank you, Milind.
Yeah. Nitesh is a seasoned law professional with over 2 decades of rich experience in the legal and compliance domain. Currently, he is acting as a Senior Director, Legal Ethics, Compliance and Quality at Novo Nordisk, one of the world's leading pharmaceutical company. Nitesh started his career with the law firm and thereafter practiced independently as a company secretary before joining the corporate sector. And he has a working experience with United Breweries as a controller, legal and secretarial, VST Industries as head legal and company secretary. Nitesh's specialties includes legal advisory, contractual agreements, corporate law, compliance review, internal audits, and risk management. Nitesh also has won many awards and accolades like Top 200 CXO in India, conferred by CXO 2.0 conference in Dubai, 100 Best Chief Legal Officers in India in 2023, conferred by Trade Block. Thank you, Nitesh, for taking time out to join this podcast and looking forward for a great conversation.
Thanks a lot, Milind. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
All right. So, Nitesh, you have a very rich experience, and we just wanted actually starting with some basic questions like how did you get in the field of law, and how do you see the legal professional transition over the years?
Well, getting into the law, I think, right from the beginning, when I was a child, I was very inquisitive, asking questions, arguing, debating, why this, why not? And while at that time, I would say, I didn't really know as to where I'm going, but my friends and family used to say, oh, you should be a lawyer. You are not the one to be satisfied with whatever comes or take it as easy. So, jokes apart, but I never thought at that time that this is the profession, that I'm going to take.
Mm-hmm.
And Milind, those days, 25 years ago, there were very limited options that you could do. Either you are an engineer or a doctor.
Yeah.
If not, then you are a chartered accountant. Company secretary was still coming up, to be a more popular. Or you are into the civil services or banking or competition. So you had very few things to pick up. And law was always there, but somehow not the preferred mode. And many a times, people had the option that, okay, if nothing happens, then you do a law. If I can, relate the way that the profession was looked at that time, because I was doing law. And on a train journey, when you're sitting with someone, there's another person who's sitting on the other side and they want to strike a conversation. There's another student who was there who asked, what are you doing? And how about your family and brothers? I said, yeah, both my brothers are engineers. They are settled and all of this. And what are you doing? I said, I'm doing law. And the other gentleman was doing physiotherapy. And he was like, oh my God, you're doing law? It was like as if you couldn't do anything else in your life, and this is what you're left with. I thought if I actually beg him, he might even give me some helping hand, okay, join my physiotherapy thing or something. But that was the perception at that time. Not that law was good. Few lawyers, who were really good, and only thing was getting into a corporate on law. You had very limited options.
Correct. Okay.
So I would say, life took a turn, and then I went into the legal field, and that's how I have moved in there.
Yeah. That's very interesting, actually. I mean, till today, till few years back, there were always options like doctor or engineers, like two options that still continued for many years, actually, until and unless there are economies opened up and there are a lot of opportunities available for in different fields. But how did you see, the legal has been profession is transition over the years? That's we want to hear from you.
The profession has really transitioned, from
Mm-hmm.
that time to this time. And today, if you see, there are 5-year degree courses, which has happened. You have a competitive exam, CLAT, which is also an option, which people start thinking of doing it, rather than being, if you are not able to do anything, then you go ahead and do law.
Correct.
So it has moved a lot. There's a lot of opportunity. There are a lot of companies which have come, and there are jobs which are available in all those companies. So many GCC centers, which have
Correct.
opened.
Correct.
And also, I would say, there are a lot of changes which are happening very recently on the law front, which also gives an option of employment, because all the companies want to be safe and want to be very clear as to what we are
Correct.
doing. These are not the days wherein the other party sends a contract and people sign it
Correct.
just
Correct.
like that. So the companies have become big. They understand what the liabilities are, what the uh, what can be the shortfall if you are not very clear and protected from all the ends.
Mm-hmm.
So the profession has really grown from those days to these days, because earlier when people thought about law, they only thought about people who are going to practice, the one
Yeah.
who wears a black coat, maybe
Yeah.
something like this, and then goes to the court and moves around in the court halls. Today the perception has changed, and
Correct.
that's also the reason not too many female lawyers were wanting to take up law. But today, when I see, even in my team, I have a majority of the lawyers, who are all female workers, who are wanting to
Correct.
work in the corporate field. So yeah, it has changed
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah. Quite agree with you, actually. I mean, we have seen big transition actually in terms of the people understanding the essential essence of the law. Actually, I mean, it's no more a cost function; it's become now a board function.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what we've seen actually. I mean, and there are a lot of functions actually are been changing over a period of time. Like basically, general counsel actually maybe their litigations are getting different. Actually, I mean I mean the law is getting different. We have seen also there are something like AI. General counsel is slowly the concept will also come actually. Okay, that is also we have seen. And
Yes.
yeah, interesting field actually. And as you said, actually, female employees are actually considerably growing actually in the industry as well. All right, that's great. That's great. And basically, you are been into leadership role as well. Okay, so how what are the some key challenges you faced actually while transitioning into the leadership roles in legal and compliance, and how did you overcome in that roles?
Yeah, with the change in the system, there is also change in the. It takes a little bit of time to move to the leadership role, and as you
Yeah,
rightly said, Milind, now we are moving from a cost center to having a seat on the table. I think the transition of the lawyers itself as a profession, having a seat at the table wherein you are a part of the business and
yeah,
you
yeah.
sit with the management team and finalize and decide on the strategy as to what is going on. I think that has changed, and that helps in moving up the ladder on a leadership.
Correct.
While knowing law, knowing your work is very important, certainly. But then, if one wants to grow and transition into a leadership, they need to know a lot of other things. How do you manage your stakeholders? How do you
Mm-hmm.
manage your team? How do you contribute to the business? Nobody wants a lawyer sitting on the table and saying no for every damn thing, or just trying to throw up the risks that, oh, if you can't do this because this has this risk. The idea today is, how do you change and say, okay, I will tell you how to do it, and let me mitigate the risk.
Correct.
These are the things that you want to do. Let me tell you how to do it, and I will stand behind you, so that we can do it together in a legal and a compliant manner.
I agree with you actually. I mean that's very. I mean ownership is basically now lies with the general counsel and head of the legal. Earlier it was basically decisions were always been taken by most of the on the gut feel basis by the CXOs. But now we have seen this is a big transition which has also happened. So you always manage a big team actually, right? And how do you see the role of the internal counsels as well as external counsel? There was always a debate which happens, but of course I wanted to hear something from you as well on this.
Yeah, very interesting. And there's a big difference between external and internal counsel, which I feel is, in order to be a general counsel working in a company, you need to be a generalist. You need to know everything. Because how it works in a company is, anything which nobody knows lands on the table of the general counsel. Now, please guide. If there's a post which comes which only says the name of the company and nothing else, it is not addressed to anyone, it lands on my table because nobody wants to open up as to what's there inside.
Oh my
Or,
God.
or you never know what is the notice. If there is something, these days things are working on a mail, but if there's a registered post, something coming up, most probably it's going to land on my table, that registered post, see what it is. But jokes apart, the idea is one should know everything as to what is happening around.
Yeah.
Sitting here, I cannot be saying, I don't know what is happening on data privacy. I didn't know that there is a change in the labor code which is happening. I was not aware of the POSH. These are the things, which one is required to know. And if there is a legislation, if there is a change, if there is a new rule or new notification by the government which has come, I'm supposed to know it and then guide it and do it. Obviously, to top it up, if you need some very specific advice, certainly you have to go and ask the external counsel.
Okay.
The good part with the external counsels are they are very specialist. So you go to a big law firm, you want to go for a litigation, the partner will say, here is my litigation partner who will take care of that. You say, okay, litigation is fine, but I also wanted some advice on the data privacy. You'll say, okay, here is a data privacy expert that I have.
Okay.
You want something on a labor laws, they will say there is a one who's specializing on labor law. So when you are external counsel, you can specialize and choose the area or the field that you have and go deep into this and be an expert. However, once you are an internal counsel working as a general counsel in any of the company, you are supposed to know everything. As to what is happening around.
Yeah, master of all.
Master of all, a jack of all, I don't know, but at least you should be able to figure out, because you cannot be sitting there and saying, okay, I'm not aware of this. So it's a continuous learning every day as to what is going around.
So what do you do actually? I mean, keep yourself updated actually for all these regulations, everything. A lot of new changes are happening around you.
Yeah, a lot of changes are happening, but thanks to the technology, now things have changed and improved much better. If you remember going to a lawyer's office, 20-25 years ago, you typically see the lawyer sitting on the table and behind him is a big cupboard filled of books. If you don't have the books, you're not a lawyer. And those are the reference books, those are the SCC and all the reported cases which are there. Now, if you today go to a modern day lawyer office, you don't find that. You just find a laptop and a computer which is there, because everything is available on the click of a button. Now, there are various sources to get. As I said, all on the system, all online, all on your phone that you have. And all the good law firms, they also come up with a summary of what is happening around, and they include you into your mailer list, and then it comes out. You are also a part of many of the group consisting of lawyers and the general counsels, wherein anything new which is happening up is something which is updated on an immediate basis. There are journals, which come up, and once you subscribe, you get to know as to what is happening. So things are available very much online, and it is much more easier. Only thing is one needs to take up the time to go through that from the regular business, day-to-day work, which is being done.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, that's very important. Technology is, of course, playing a major role actually in today's day-to-day activities, and we have seen there are some AI research assistants are being launched recently, and of course that of course AI plus human. Basically, this is how the combination is going to work, because AI is not going to AI suggestions, or maybe AI is not going to be 100% correct. We need a human intervention as well. So of course, there's a question always asked actually. I mean, whether AI is going to replace the humans or not. But that's not going to happen. It's always the AI assistant is going to the human beings, and that is how basically the productivity will go up. So rightly said, technology is playing a major role, and of course, somebody has to take a time out actually to understand and go around and spend time actually online to understand what's happening around. That's interesting. It's very essential managing the internal CXOs as well as internal stakeholders. But of course, the challenge always comes actually how in managing the external stakeholders relationships, such as regulators, investors. And so how basically you are able to manage these while upholding the compliance?
Yeah, so that also I would say, technology is of lot of help these days. When I started, I remember, practicing as a company secretary. Those days, we didn't have things which were online. So if I have to go and file my annual return for my
Yeah.
clients, I have to go to the ROC office, stand in the queue, and there will be, if you're going on a 30th of September or 29th of September, there will be
You'll
200 people, will be there in the queue.
correct.
And you have to wait in the queue, ensure that, you get and are able to file it in time. And that was all the hassle. Now, thankfully, with the technology coming in, everything is being done online.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be there physically, and you don't have to deal with the people in there. Everything is online, so long as you have the data ready. You can do it at your time. If you're busy during the day, you can always upload it in the evening as per your leisure, as per your time, and then plan things much better. It also saves a lot of time. I see there's a lot of digitization, which is also being done by the government, wherein one doesn't need to have a public interaction more. Many of the times, all the return filing and everything is there online. What it has done is it has cut up the dealings, that you have with the public, and it makes it much more easier, faster, and simpler to do. Other thing which I believe is, if we are very right on our documentation, if there is nothing wrong, which has been done, there's nobody, who can stop it. At the most, what is going to happen is maybe delay it a little more. There will be a few more queries. There will be a few more questions, which might take up a little bit of time. But it is important that we keep our records in place and keep things house in order, if I may say. And that helps a lot in dealing with any of the authorities that we have.
Yeah, interesting. Good. So is compliance become complex over years? And and what do you think we need to have essential skills to manage this?
I would say, I wouldn't say complex, but I would say yes, it has expanded in the role. But the compliance, when we were talking about earlier, was relating to the regulatory compliances only. Whether if you're running an office, do you have a Shops and Establishment Act, registration in there? Are you filing your PF in time, for the employees, and are you filing all the returns on time or not? Now it has expanded in its scope. Today there are data privacy thing, which has come, and you have to be sure about it. There is a POSH Act, which has come. Okay, you have to be aware that you're following up the processes that we have. There are a lot of other anti-bribery, anti-corruption things which one needs to take up and be aware of. Many multinationals coming in. Also, a lot of the Indian companies, who are working abroad, are very much aware that, what an FCPA fine can have and how it is. So there is a lot of awareness and sensitization, which is there. And every good company today has the policies to ensure that we are on top of the compliance in all of those, not only the regulatory compliances, but also all other compliances, plus the latest regulations. Nobody knew about GDPR or was not so serious about the data privacy, as maybe as recent as, a decade ago or something around that. But today everyone is, and if you're dealing with the cross-border transactions, you need to be very sure as to where we stand and how to manage it.
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, even a small penalty will basically, there is a big risk actually, financially, reputational risk, right? So we have to be careful.
And the penalties, which are being imposed by the FCPA are huge, or even the Competition Commission of India, are huge penalties, which comes up. And to top up the penalties, it's also the reputational risk, as you rightly said, none of the companies want to take a chance with that, so it's very important that we stay on top of the compliance and all of those matters.
Correct, actually. So you have been dealing with is a anti-corruption, anti-bribery. I mean, these are been the big concerns also, actually, right, globally. So do you want to discuss some of the strategies? Basically, how do we embed this culture actually within the organization?
Yeah, you rightly said, Milind. It is a culture which has to be embedded into the organization. And how does a culture change? Culture changes from the top.
Correct.
The top-down approach is something, if the head or the leaders of the company are following it, and wanting to do it, only then the people down the line is gonna do and follow. Some of the things which we do and which I believe is important is messaging from the top and repeated messaging on the top.
Okay.
Second thing is walk the talk, not that you say something and then do something, and when we are saying some of the things, it is equally applicable to everyone, and everybody is required to follow that. Then what I would say is it requires a lot of awareness training, refresher courses. In our companies, we run campaigns and different ways wherein we can engage people on business ethics days or quality day. Those are the things which to create a little bit more of a awareness. Any new person joining in is required to go through mandatory through the business ethics policies that we have and the culture that we have, so that they are imbibed and they are required to do it right from the beginning. In addition to that, what I feel is there are two more things which can be done. One is let's do compliance by design. When you have a place wherein things have to run into the tool, it becomes a little more easier, so that it is more on a system dependent rather than on a people dependent, because even if the people come and go, if you have the tools and things in place and the procedure in place, people will have to follow that. And lastly, I also believe in rewarding the good behavior that you have. Sometimes, as they say, make the naughtiest of the child as the class monitor. I would want to say, when you see that, okay, this guy is wavering a lot, give them a responsibility of, okay, here it is.
Correct.
I will handhold you. I'll be there with you, but then you are required to ensure that in your team, everybody does or complies with that. So many times, even that works on. So one will have to use all the ways, to ensure that we are all on the top of the compliance.
That's absolutely correct. By the way, I was also one of the naughty monitors.
I'm sure you must be very compliant now.
Interesting. So, working with different organizations, first 90 days has always been very critical, actually. Do you want to share some light on this?
Yeah, sure. What I focus is, especially on a role, which is of the leadership status, I assume that you are selected basis that you the work. So that is the basic thing which one needs to have, knowing the work. If I am a lawyer, I am sure I should be able to. I should be aware of the law and good at the work. That is how the company is selected. But then there are many other things which needs to be kept in mind. First of all, try and understand the company and its culture. Then I would also focus on trying and understanding the business as to how does the business run. What is the supply chain? Is it into sale? Is it into service? And when it is done, where is the pain point? Where are the risk areas that we have? How do I mitigate those risks? And how do I contribute to the business rather than just sitting on the one side and trying to look into whether the contracts are in place, whether things are being done on a right manner or not. But wanting to contribute to the business as such is something that I would want to see. And the other thing is also trying to know my stakeholders. Who are my main stakeholders? What are their requirements? Understanding from them, going and speaking to them and understanding from them as to what their requirements or expectations are from me or from my function.
Correct.
I think once we have all of this in place, only then it can be successful. And the earlier that we know about it, the better it is gonna be with respect to the career in that particular company.
Yeah, rightly said, actually. It's basically somebody has to own it up, accountable has to be there, and understanding the culture, how the business works is very essential, actually. That is one of the important thing which I think is there actually required actually for most of these people. So reflecting your career, what advice you would like to give the professional aspiring to build a career in the legal and compliance field?
Yeah, quite a bit has changed, as I said, into the career. And also now you have Gen Z, Gen Alpha, I don't know, all of those who are a little impatient.
Yeah, correct.
And, very eager to move very fast. It is good to be ambitious. My suggestion would be nothing better than knowing your work. Please, first of all, be the best in whatever you do. Second thing, do not limit yourself to just one section or one portion of the work that you're doing. So if you're doing contracting, don't think that I'll do only contracting.
Okay.
Because if you're wanting to grow into your career in a corporate field, one needs to know, as I said, has to be jack or a master of all the trades that you have. So try and explore what other things can be learned. I think one should be proactive. Go and see and ask your manager, is there anything else that I can do in addition to this? Because I have done this, I am willing to stretch. One should be ready to stretch a little more, because anything that you're wanting to learn new will require more time, more effort, in addition to the work that you're doing. So one should be willing to do that. Another thing which I would say is try and understand how to manage the stakeholders, how to deal, how to talk to them, how to understand as to what their problems are, and then try to provide solutions. Another thing is do not switch jobs just for a little bit of money. I understand, it's very difficult. Trust me, in the short term, it looks like, okay, this is the jump that I'm getting and it makes sense. But one has to be very careful, and I would say one should look into the future as a long-term benefit. And the more that you know in your field, that is where it is going to help. So one should be a little more patient. And as I said, one needs to be very careful and not be in a hurry to jump the job. The last thing which I wanted to say is, which we miss out many of the times, is as a junior, one should look for a mentor. One should look for a guide. One should look for a coach who's able to handhold and guide. Anyone who's new or fresh or very at the beginning do not understand. Whoever they trust, whoever they know, whoever they find or comfortable with, it always helps to have a mentor or a coach or a guide who can help them and guide them and handhold them, whether from a career decision, whether from learning, whether from a guidance, whether one has to do a new course, whether what is going to be woke, what is going to be coming up in the future. I think all of these, it becomes a little more difficult to comprehend for a new guy. It will help always to look for a guide or a mentor on that.
Absolutely, that's correct. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely great to hear. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap up?
No, Milind, I think it was a pleasure talking to you. I see the future. While there are a lot of talk going on whether AI will replace the humans or human, I think all these new technologies that we have, and we discussed also during our conversation, is something which is only going to complement, which is going to make things simpler, which will make it easier. I don't think the human beings can be replaced completely, but having said that, one needs to be very careful. What are the things, which can be done or which can be automated? I would want to learn beyond that, so that, things can be automated. Tomorrow, the companies will want to implement those tools, which can be automated. But I'd want to develop and work on those areas, which cannot be automated, and wherein the human intelligence is required and wherein the judgment is required. I think those are the things which is anyway going to continue. So, that's it from my end, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, that's great actually. I mean, thanks for this closing remarks actually. So it's very useful actually, and thanks Nitesh for your time today, and see you actually going forward for any discussions.
Thank you very much, Melinda.